I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on the Spotlight Network, we're welcoming the creative mind behind beloved children's books. Her name, Renee Servello, and her latest release is called Petey the Pug Escapes for 24 Hours. It is a true story of adventure, family fun, and a mischievous little pug puppy who runs away for one unforgettable day. Stay with us as we explore this delightful tale that will captivate young readers, parents, and grandparents alike. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Explorer Books for helping us put her in the spotlight today, and we ask viewers like you to support authors like her by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing her amazing books. The links are below this interview. And be sure to download the Spotlight Network TV app streaming on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV. Renee, thank you so much for joining me here today on Spotlight.
Logan, thank you for having me. This is an exciting day for me.
I'm glad it's an exciting day for you. It's an exciting day for us here at Spotlight. We love your book. And I got to tell you, when your dog runs away, it's one of the scariest things that can happen. I mean, I've got an Apple AirTag on my dog. I've got gates in front of my front entrance because I got a mischievous little Jack Russell Terrier, and they're like escape artists. So you took a real life adventure with Petey the Pug and turned it into a children's book. Tell us the real story behind the story first.
Well, the real story is my son brought me the story. He was a manager at a golfing facility, surrounded by the high mesh wiring. And what happened was he came by for dinner one night and said, "You won't believe what happened 2 days ago at the facility." And he told me the story. I couldn't get him out of the room fast enough because I wanted to go write down the points of the story. It grabbed me immediately. And I just thought, gosh, he's such a spunky little dog, adventuresome. He's an escape artist. He's like all dogs, really.
Exactly.
And it just grabbed me. It just really grabbed me. So I wrote the book, and then, several months later, our son came over and I said, "Guess what?" And I handed him the Petey book. And he said, "What is this?" And I said, "Well, you gave me the Petey story and he's in print now." And he said, "But I just told you that story. It seems like a few weeks ago." I said, "No, it's been a couple of months, but Petey is being enjoyed by everybody now." So it was handed to me. It was a gift.
Wonderful. Give the folks at home an overview of the story.
Okay, well, Petey is a little escape artist, as many animals are, and he lived across the street from the golfing community. So I have to imagine seeing thousands of people in and out, daylight, nighttime. He wanted to go see what all the excitement was about. So one day he did dig out of his backyard, and then he went over to the golfing facility that had very, very high, nets up above. And somehow that little dog, that little pug dog, dug under all of that fencing and he got in, and he was a happy camper. He was jumping up and trying to grab the golf balls as the golfers were hitting. And once the golfers saw that little dog was out there, they stopped. They knew, if a golf ball hit him, it could be bad for Petey. So luckily the ball truck was there and picked him up and took him to the clubhouse. And that began 24 hours of pure fun for Petey. He, manna from heaven. He had been seeing all these people for so long go over there, and now he was part of the group, and they took very, very good care of him. He had a ball.
Wonderful, wonderful. It's a great story. Are there lessons embedded in the story that children can learn, do you think?
Yes, I like gentle messages in my books to the children. Gentle. I don't preach to them. And this one of the messages is, please, please, please think about it before you want to go out your back gate, because if you do that, your parents are going to worry about you and they'll be sad.
Yeah.
And then in Petey's case, I think he offers us a huge message. And the message I got from Petey, I think that's what really zeroed me in on Petey. The huge message is Petey is just like us.
Mm-hmm.
If we want to go do something rather than think about it for 10 years, you know what? Try to do it. We all have dreams and aspirations, and obviously Petey did too, but he moved on it. That's what I like. He moved on it and he made his dream come true. So we can all do that. We can all get that lesson, I believe.
Exactly. Don't just have the dream, act upon it. That's a great lesson. Don't run away from home. That's another lesson. When I was a
Yeah.
kid, I used to run away from home all the time. You know, I mean, just like to go uptown or, you know, disappear into the woods for hours and not tell my parents where I was.
Wow.
I
You were
don't know.
very independent.
I was independent and I still am, but yeah. So those I've always tried to instill in my children when they were growing up, don't run away. It's a scary world out there. And
Sure
my kids
is.
never did, thank goodness, because I think I would have gone out of my mind, you know?
You would have. We all
Yeah,
would have as parents.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Have you
Yeah.
envisioned Petey the Pug as an animated series or a short or something like that?
Absolutely, absolutely. And things are going on behind the scenes. We'll see.
Okay.
Maybe we'll have another meeting sometime and we can discuss further things. But yes, Petey, being the escape artist that he is, I can see him in so many situations because he's just full of life and he loves to explore, as most dogs do.
Right. Sure. Yeah,
Well, the
exactly. Got a
cats do
great
too. The
character.
cats do the same thing. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. I think dogs are even more mischievous. Cats can run away, it's no problem. They can be gone for days and take care of themselves. It's when the dog gets loose, you know, that's when you worry. That's for
Yeah.
sure. But he's a great
Sure.
character. I think he'd be great in a TV series or something like that. So, Nickelodeon, if you're listening, here's a story that's ready to go. Now, you've got another story. You've got several stories you've written for children. This one's called Freckles Finds a Forever Home. So tell us a
Yes.
little bit about that book.
Sure. Freckles, this is another true story. Freckles was our indoor pet. She
Mhm.
lived in our house with us, and it's just my husband and I here now. But
And she's a
he had
rabbit, right?
never, pardon me,
She's a rabbit?
rabbit.
Yeah.
Yeah, one Mother's Day, our daughter came to me and she said, Mom, what would you like for Mother's Day? And I said, a rabbit. And she says, okay, what color? And I'm like, what do you mean, what color? She said, oh, I'll go to the toy store and get you a colored rabbit. And I said, no, a real rabbit. I used to have one growing up, and
Wow.
they're delightful, mischievous animals. Everybody should have a rabbit as far as I'm concerned. But I said, no, I want a miniature Dutch lop rabbit, lop, L-O-P. And
Hmm.
that means they have the long ears that flop when they hop.
Hmm.
They flop and they go. But she moved into our house. We adopted her. Well, our daughter showed up with this little 2-pound rabbit in her hand one day. And it was just a ball of white fluff. You could hardly see her face. There was so much white hair. And my husband named her because of her markings, Freckles. And I named her Freckles Servello. We have a new member now. And you know how it is with your animals and your pets, they seem to take over your lives.
Hmm.
And it wasn't long before that little 2-pound ball of fluff was a 4.5-pound ball of
Hmm.
fluff. And that was as large as she got. And she became our boss. She let us know what she wanted during the day, and we followed her instructions to the T. But a cute little story about her is, you know how your children hate to go to the pediatrician. They just
Hmm.
do. And they know. And animals know too. The minute you put them in that car, they seem to have radar that we're on our way to the vet, and they hate it. So the first time we went to the vet, she was terrified terrified. So she crawled up under my chin and flattened out. It was like I was wearing a fur necklace, and she wouldn't come down. So when we walked into the veterinarian's office, I had to hold my chin so that she wouldn't fall down. She just didn't want to come down.
That's so
So, of
funny.
course, when the doctor appeared, I had to extricate her from my chin.
Wow.
So she was quite the talk of the veterinarian office every time we walked in. And then they began to ask me, would you mind if you have shopping or something today? Would you mind if Freckles spent the day with us? Because everybody loves this animal and she loves people. A lot of rabbits like the dark. So if people come to your house, they zoom under the couch or something. She was the total opposite. When the doorbell rang, she was the first to the door, stand up on her hind legs to see who was coming in. And if people came in and sat down with us, she would make a flying leap across the room to get in my lap. She liked my arm to come up so her little tiny head could rest on it. And she followed everybody's conversation. It was like, I understand what they're saying and I want to participate. So everybody out there that has had pets, you know what I'm talking
Oh,
about.
yeah.
They just do things like that. And so she was unique in that sense. But one of the nicest things that came out of that book was a few months after it was published, I began to hear from people who had bought the Freckles book and they had adopted children. And their children loved the story because it reminded them of their story. We adopted Freckles and they had been adopted. So that made me think of my cousin, Laurie, and her husband, Randy. They had adopted 4 children. So we were talking one night, Laurie and I, and she said she was having problems with one of her sons. He wouldn't turn the light out. Curfew was 9 p.m. and he wasn't turning his light out. So she went in his room one night and said, why are you, not turning your light out? He said, Mom, I'm reading Freckles. And she says, well, okay, but you've read Freckles 100 times. Why at 9 o'clock every night? He said, because I'm reading about myself. You and Dad adopted me. The Servellos adopted Freckles, and Freckles and I are the same. We're the very same. When I heard that, that was the most heartwarming thing I have ever heard in my life. So I thought, winner.
Yeah,
Little Miss
absolutely.
Freckles is a winner here. She's got a powerful message to tell the children. So that was a bonus to that book.
Yeah, and
A
that's a
big
great
bonus.
message that children realize when they're adopted. It doesn't mean they were abandoned. It means they were chosen by people who wanted them desperately, loved them, cherished them, and appreciated them. So that's a great message.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I loved it. It was just very, very, very special message that they delivered to me.
That's great. That's great. Now, Freckles finds a forever home. Was it forever home with you or was it with some
Yes.
other people? Okay. Didn't know if
Yeah.
Freckles,
We
when he
had we
got bigger and
adopted her.
bigger.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. And Freckles must have been quite a companion. How long did you guys have Freckles?
Well, actually, we only had her a short 4.5 years. She
Hmm.
picked up some sort of a little virus somewhere.
Hmm.
And so it was a short term
Right.
situation. But, I last year in New York, I was giving a speech and a lady in the audience asked me, she said, well, how long did you have her? And I said, oh, not long enough. But, she just meant so much to us. And she said, so you just wrote the book? I said, no, 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 no. I could not write her story
Yeah.
for a long, long time. I
Yeah.
was grieving. And she said, oh, okay. I just wanted to get that straight. Don't start crying. I said, I'm not.
Exactly.
But I couldn't write her story right away. It took a while.
And that was your first children's book, Freckles, right?
Freckles was the first children's book. Petey was second. And then I have a new book that just came out 2 weeks ago. And that's Baby Barney Needs Hugs and Food. And Barney is a ginormous Labradoodle dog. This is my first fiction book.
Hmm.
Labradoodle dog. And, he's the star of the family until he grows and he grows and he grows. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, he can't fit on the couch with his family anymore. He can't fit in the back seat of the car. He can't fit anywhere. And he used to run up and down their stairs when he was a puppy with his family, but then he's ginormous. And if he bumps up against them, they all go tumbling down.
Mm.
So they don't like Barney to go up and down the stairs with them any longer. So that's a dog that really grew quickly. And his best friend is the postman. So the postman brings him treats, and he says, Barney, don't knock me down, and I'll
Mm.
give you a treat. Well, he stands up and he puts his hands on the postman's shoulders, knocks him down, of course, because he's so much bigger, and then sits on top of the postman until he gives him a treat. So this is an everyday occurrence in that neighborhood. But Barney is a good, solid, sweet dog. He just is not aware of his size, but
Yeah.
he has a lot of things going on in his life too.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's a beautiful story, no doubt. So you've really gotten into the genre of children's storybooks. I know you've written other books as well. We'll get into those. Um,
Okay.
and I know you also have a test audience in your own family. You've got great grandkids and grandkids, and tell us how they react to the stories.
Oh my God. Well, I never tell them when I'm writing, and I never tell them when it's published. And I just wait for them to come over, and I hand them a book and they're like, when did you do this? It's always a shock.
Yeah,
And so, they're totally unbelievable. You did this, you did that. But I always have a story going up here. So I have
good.
a new one going up here now too. And but it's so much fun to write about
Yeah.
children and pets. They're two of my favorite topics.
Exactly. And it's fun, the creative process of putting it down on paper. Tell us about the illustrations for these books.
Well, whenever I publish a book, the illustrations come from the illustrators that work at that company. And
Hmm.
so in my mind, I've enjoyed all of the illustrations that they have provided
Yeah,
me. And I think they sort of grab the reader when you see the front page. I mean, that dog
absolutely.
and that tongue hanging out. I mean, he just grabs me. Let's put
Exactly.
it
Well,
that
who
way.
can resist that beautiful pug face, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wonderful.
Exactly.
Wonderful. Now, I understand you've written a book called You're Kidding, I'm a Senior. And I think that's a great title because when you become a senior, uh, it almost is shocking to you when people start, one, you start being older than your doctors, which I think is weird. People start calling you
Yeah,
sir and ma'am.
right,
There are a lot
right.
of things that happen. I mean, I'd rather not people know I'm a senior. I could give a darn about the 10% discount at IHOP, you know? So tell us a little bit about your book. You're kidding, I'm a senior.
Well, yeah, in 2017, I was listening to people in general, and I was aging,
Mhm.
and I noticed the changes, and then family, friends, and just strangers. I would listen to what they were talking about. And I've been in a cardio class now for 20 years, and I would
Mm.
listen to all those people talk about aging, and it was all the same. They were bemoaning. I don't want to get out of bed anymore. I just, just a barrage of griping. But I listened to everything they were saying, and then I thought, okay, but to me, that's funny
Mm.
because I definitely have the humor gene. I have two genres, humor books and children's books. And I think I get that from my mother. She was hysterical.
Right.
But so all of a sudden I thought, I want to give these people hope because I'm finding the aging process humorous, not
Mhm.
wonderful. I never said wonderful. I said humorous. So, of course, I'm not talking about the people that are very ill. I'm just trying to lighten up the general population that has just discovered their aging. So I wrote the book, and it pertained to me really because most of the stories were mine. And I saw it as looking ahead, that we're all aging. So what? So what else is new? You know, you just take your vitamins and go and hope for the best. And that book people really seem to enjoy. So I said, okay, I'll really get serious about this now. So I wrote a much larger book called Humor All the Way.
Mhm.
And on the front cover at the bottom, I wrote, humor is the RX for life. And I truly believe that. I mean, if you can laugh about your situations and your day, even though it's a crummy day sometimes, if you can turn it around and laugh about something that was humorous, I think you're not going to need so many medications in life. I think you're just going to, get it out of your system, laugh about
Absolutely.
it.
I think even if you force yourself to smile, you feel better.
Yeah,
Something
yeah,
happens
of course.
inside when you have a smile on your face.
Yeah,
I've got this
abs
thing where I've got like headshots with me with this big, cheesy smile on my face. And my wife always found that picture hysterical. So every now and then I'll just walk up to her and give her the biggest, cheesiest smile I can muster. And she'll start laughing and I'll start laughing, and you feel good just by going through the
Yeah,
motions of pretending to be happy or pretending to have a big
yeah,
smile. And there is
yes.
always something to smile about. You really do have to choose your focus in this life, don't you?
Oh, yes. And like I say, I think I got it from my mother because I'm exactly the way she was. So it was good genes that I inherited. I inherited her humor and her love of life.
Yeah.
She was very special.
I think some
But
people are happy. They just wake up happy, right? They're lucky that way. They just wake up in the morning and they're happy. They have a
exactly.
good set point for happiness, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And I tell people I don't have to go outside my home to have a laughing experience. I'm laughing all day long. Something happens. And of course, my husband, I have to tell him 1 second later, and he's used to this. So he goes, Renee, yeah, that's funny. And it's like, okay, we've been through this a
That's
million
funny. That's
times.
funny. I think
But
once you
I just,
accept the fact that you're a goofball, like I accept the fact that I'm completely imperfect, I'm a complete screw up at times, and an idiot. And once I embrace my inner idiot, I feel better, you know? So
yeah, sure,
yeah,
absolutely. You let
yeah.
it out. And there's so much humor around us. I mean, I have humor inside the house, but man, you get on the freeway,
Oh,
oh, that's really humor out there.
yeah.
And it's just everywhere. We're surrounded by humor if you see it, if you don't go berserk about what's happening.
Exactly, exactly. Laugh at the crazy drivers out there cutting you off and acting like idiots, and
Yeah,
you'll be a
a
lot
lot of
healthier.
that.
Your blood pressure will be lower. I mean, if you're smiling, if you're happy, I mean, your stats are better too. Your vitals are better. Your blood pressure is better. Your heart rate is better, right?
Yeah, every year when I have my physical, my blood pressure is so low. They're just like perfect, perfect, perfect. Whatever you're doing, just keep doing it. Well,
Yeah,
I keep laughing day after day after day because,
yeah,
like I say, humor's everywhere.
yeah. And another good part about aging that you're doing to combat it is you're staying engaged. You know, you
Yes.
haven't stopped creating, you haven't stopped producing. In fact, this is one of the most creative aspects of your life, I'd imagine. You're writing lots of books, right?
Yeah, it really is. And the way it started, I had a 30-year retail career. And when I retired, I thought, oh, life's going to be great. And I found out very quickly I was bored. So I thought, what now? And I thought, aha, fourth grade. My family, my mother and dad and brother and we moved to Venezuela because my father had accepted a job there. And the car picked us up at the airport to drive us, where we were going to be living. And it was just one wonderful experience after another. You just never know where they're going to come from.
Hmm.
And just in the car that day, we were passing by Lake Maracaibo, and this is a famous lake. It's huge, and it has a lot of oil underneath it.
Mhm.
So a lot of companies are moving into Venezuela to extract that oil. But anyway, where we lived, our housing development, there were no kids my age, and that was pretty sad for me. So I would see my friends Monday through Friday. The school was 7 miles away, so I
Mhm.
would see them, Monday through Friday. But the weekends, sometimes, unless I was going to Girl Scouts or swimming lessons, there really wasn't anything for me to do. So I started writing. I would watch the neighbors. Mrs. Smith is leaving in her car, wonder where she's going, really top literary stuff. And not. And that's where I began to write. So once I retired, I thought, I think I'm going to get back to writing. And then I wanted to do the little, you're kidding, I'm a senior book for the general population, so they
Mhm.
wouldn't worry so much about aging.
Yeah.
And then it kept going from there. And I love writing, and I love sending my little gentle messages out there for the
Well,
world.
well, I think the world enjoys receiving them too. You've got me intrigued about this move when you were in fourth grade to Venezuela. How long did you live in Venezuela? What brought your parents there? And do you embrace
Well,
that move right away? I mean, some kids might be like, I don't want to leave.
no, no, no. We had read about Venezuela. My dad brought us home magazines and everything. And so we had read about it. And my brother and I, Cody, we could not wait to get there. We had no idea what we were getting into, a foreign country,
Mm.
tropical. But the first day that we were picked up, like I told you, at the airport, and we were driving to our new home, right beside the bank of this a portion of Lake Maracaibo was this ginormous, I've never seen anything like it in my life, anaconda snake. And thank God he was dead. And somehow he was on the banks of this huge lake. And in my fourth grade eyes, people have asked me through the years, well, how long was that snake? And I said, I don't know, but back then I would say it was probably 2 football fields long. Now I'm thinking, no,
Right.
he couldn't have been that long.
But to a little child
But
seeing a huge snake for the first time, I'm sure that's what your
I've never
perception of
seen
it
a snake in
was.
my life.
Right.
I hadn't seen a snake in Texas, but I traveled far and wide and I saw an anaconda stretched out. But I
Wow.
wasn't the only one seeing him. There were newspaper people, magazines taking the picture because nobody had ever seen a snake this large. I mean, the circumference was probably the size of a bus, a big truck. I don't know. It was just ginormous and
Amazing.
scared me half to death, but I loved being there. But it didn't stop there because 2 days later, I was picked up to go to my new school. And when I came out of my front door, there were like 12 men across the street, and they're going, shh, shh, shh. So, the bus driver told me just to be quiet and get in the bus quietly, but not Renee. No, 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 no. I ran around. I had to see what was going on. And what was going on is there was a huge, huge crocodile that had crawled into the camp that night, and he was sound asleep. So all of these men were putting shovels under him to throw him in a pickup and get him out of there before he ate somebody.
Amazing.
Well, I hated getting out of my bed every day because, my God, it was wild kingdom everywhere. Oh, and then I got to school, and of course, I learned later that this is what they do to all of the newbies. And so the boys came running up and they said, welcome to Venezuela, but you better be careful of the frogs. I said, what frogs? They said, the little white tree frogs. They have suctions on their bellies and they stick on you, and they'll just stick for life because you can't get them off. Well, I ran home horrified, telling my parents, told them I wasn't going back to school. I wasn't getting out of bed. And my father says, I'll check that out with the men at the office tomorrow, but I don't think that's a true
That's
story.
so
And it
funny. This
wasn't.
was
Yes.
pre-Google, so you were really frightened
Yes, it
until you
was
could check with
way,
the
way
men at the
before that.
office.
But
Great.
yes, the white frogs are there and they can stick on you, but you can take them off, no problem.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, that was quite a welcome wagon. And I can see why you can take your imagination and take real life experiences and meld them into wonderful stories, the stories that you've written, the stories that you've told here today. We've been talking to Renee Servello. She is the brilliant mind behind beloved books, including one of her latest releases, Petey the Pug, Escapes for 24 Hours. It's a true story of adventure, family fun, and a mischievous puppy who runs away for one unforgettable day. That's one of several books she has written. She has also written Freckles Finds a Forever Home, You're Kidding, I'm a Senior, Humor All the Way, and of course, there is more to come. Renee, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Oh, well, then, it was my pleasure. Thank you for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
It has been fun. Enjoyed talking with you and having a laugh with you. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.